Welcome to Algebra, Chapter 2, Section 1, Single-Step Equations. When solving equations, the goal is to get the variable by itself. To get the variable by itself, you want to use inverse operations. An inverse operation is an operation that undoes. So for addition, subtraction is the inverse. And for subtraction, addition is the inverse. For multiplication, division is the inverse. And for division, multiplication is the inverse. Squares and square roots are inverses of each other. So to undo a square root, you use a square. To undo a square, you use a square root. And this will be number 3 in your notes. Write down this equation. And we're going to work this problem. We're going to solve it by isolating the variable, getting this variable alone. So we have x minus 24. So we need the additive inverse of negative 24. Well, the additive inverse is going to be plus 24. That's what we'll use to undo it. What you do to one side, you must do to the other. So we'll add 24 to both sides. On the left here, we have x minus 24 plus 24 is 0 equals minus 12 plus 24 is 12. So that's our solution. Now there's a way of checking our solution, and we're going to check our solution by putting the 12 back into the equation to see the answer. So we're going to take this 12 and we're going to put it in for the x. So we have 12 minus 24 equals negative 12. Is that a true statement? Well, 12 minus 24, of course, is negative 12. So since negative 12 equals negative 12, we know that x equals 12 is the solution. Here's problem number 4. Once again, we have a variable. This time it's y, and we have plus 1/2 added to it. So I need the additive inverse of plus 1/2. Well, that'd be minus 1/2. What I do to one side of the equal sign, I must do the other. On the left, I'm going to have y, and then you can see plus 1/2 minus 1/2 cancels out. Equal sign comes down. 4 minus 1/2 equals 3.5. To check this answer, you can see that I put 3.5 in place of the y. 3.5 plus 1/2 equals 4. That is a true statement, so 4 does equal 4. And that verifies that our y value is 3.5. Here's problem number 5 for your notes. This problem is slightly different than the previous ones. This has x times 4. This is a multiplication. So we need to use the multiplicative inverse of 4. Well, there's two ways you can look at this problem. One way is you're looking at this and you say, okay, the multiplicative inverse of 4 is 1/4. What you do to one side, you must do the other. These will become 1, so you're left with just x. 6.4 times 1/4 is going to equal 6.4 over 4. Obviously, you don't want a decimal and a fraction together. So you're going to have x equals 1.6 because I divided those out. Once again, we can take that value and we can put it into the equation in place of the x to make sure this is a true statement. And as you can see here, it is. Now that was one way of solving this. Another way would be to realize that this is a multiplication problem and use the inverse operation. The inverse operation of multiplication is division. So you divide both sides by 4, which is what you need to get rid of. It would still create x. 6.4 divided by 4 is 1.6. From there, you would still verify your answer the same way. So two methods to solve this equation. This would be number 6 in your notes. This is a division problem. So to undo division, you would use the inverse, which is to multiply. Multiply both sides by 15. That's what you need to get rid of. They cancel out, creating 1, and 1 times m is m. On the right-hand side, negative 2 times 15 is negative 30. Once again, you have m over 15 equals negative 2. So you put 30 over 15 equaling negative 2. And notice that was a negative 30. So this is a true statement. Negative 2 does equal negative 2. So this must be your answer. Here we see a fraction. This fraction, we're going to use the multiplicative inverse. Well, the inverse of 3/4 is its reciprocal. This is number 7 in your notes. The reciprocal of 3/4 is 4/3. What I do to one side, I must do to the other. Now, the thing about 4/3 is you can see some canceling. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So as you For this problem, I'd like you to see if you can create the equations before you go on. So pause the video. This is question number 8. And see if you can create the equation you need. As you can see here, I've created an equation. Toucans is 2/3 the length of an average blue and yellow macaw. So toucans equals 2/3 of a macaw. Well, if toucans are about 24 inches, we know that t is going to equal 24. So we can change our equation to 24 equals 2/3 m. To solve, we'll multiply by the reciprocal. So these are going to cancel. And so m equals, and m equals 36. For your final entry in your journal, in your notes, tell me what operation does this equation show? 3 plus x equals negative 34. 10. In writing, use your words. Which steps would you use to solve 3 plus x equals negative 34? Finally, verify that you know each of these. Addition property is adding the opposite. And check off how well you can use the properties of equality. How well do you understand what went on? Now take a look at these tomorrow.